Coming up next, from San Fran Freak Show, the Savage Nation, from Talk 910 KNEW.
Imagine discovering an opportunity that can completely rebuild your retirement fund by 40% over the next 2 years. Does it sound too good to be true? It's not if you take action today. Call my good friends, and I mean good friends, at Swiss America. Gold IRAs have averaged 20% per year growth since 2001. It's just common sense to roll over dead paper assets into gold, the best performing asset of the century. Then you can relax no matter what happens on Wall Street. Call now for a complete Gold 101 DVD and my free CD.
Call toll-free 888-867-8965. That's 888-867-8965.
For nearly a decade, I've told you to trust gold coins and Swiss America. Today, it's more urgent than ever. Get my CD, DVD, and new special report.
Call toll-free 888-867-8965. That's 888-867-8965.
Learn before you earn. Don't just imagine rebuilding your wealth. Do it now.
Call 888-867-8965 today.
Hi, it's Roger Hitchcock. Join me evening starting at 7, right after Savage on Talk 910 KNEW.
Warning. The Michael Savage Show contains adult language, adult content, psychological nudity. Listener discretion is advised.
America's most exciting radio talk show, The Savage Nation. Here is Michael Savage.
I'm going to give you something for free right now. I'm going to read an excerpt from my new book, Banned in Britain, which can only be purchased right now on michaelsavage.com. In it, you're going to read the secret emails which disclose how the entire British government colluded to destroy a man's name and reputation. I should say the liberal British government. This is the excerpt from Banned in Britain. I have led a rather elusive and reclusive life, but after being put on a list with murderers, racists, and terrorists, as a direct result of Jackie Smith's unilateral verdict that she pronounced to me without ever giving me a day in court, I had to get 24-hour security. I mention this because many friends, enemies, and neutrals sometimes assume that I'm enjoying the publicity. People hear me on the Savage Nation getting heated up in my own defense, which I hope you understand is more than understandable, and then they get the bizarre idea that I'm happy to be talking about this crisis in my life. That is simply wrong. We've talked about the possibility of the Obama administration putting the CIA on trial. This has happened before with disastrous results. Joining us now is KT McFarland from ktmcfarland.com to talk about what we can expect from this trial.
Hi, Michael. It's great to be back with you on the Savage Nation. The Obama administration has just set in motion what could potentially result in the greatest threat to American security in a generation. The Attorney General's decision to open a criminal probe into alleged Bush-era CIA abuses, it won't stop there. It'll no doubt be followed by a zealous Speaker Pelosi and Senator Reid and congressional committees eager to join the hunt with public hearings of their own. Michael, we have been to this movie before, and it ended in disaster. After the Vietnam War and Watergate, Congress launched a similar investigation into the CIA in 1975 and 6. It wasn't over torture, but whether the CIA was a rogue elephant in targeting foreign leaders for assassination. The Church Committee in the Senate and the Pike Committee in the House hauled in intelligence officials and, with the cameras running, forced them to reveal classified information or risk prosecution. The committees subpoenaed and then unilaterally declassified some of our nation's most sensitive intelligence documents. So Congress put the CIA on trial. And it may have started as an investigation into illegal CIA anti-war activities in the U.S., but it quickly expanded to include all aspects of CIA covert activities. Undercover intelligence officers were outed. Allied intelligence agencies, fearing their operations could be compromised, stopped sharing information with us. Foreign nationals who had fed information to us before suddenly got cold feet. And U.S. intelligence agents overseas had trouble recruiting, and existing networks dried up. In fact, one undercover American intelligence officer, Athens Station Chief Richard Welsh, was murdered after his name was published. And as a result, America's intelligence gathering ability, their human intelligence abilities, was eviscerated for a generation.
What do they have to rely on for info then?
We emphasized satellite intelligence, which is called SIGINT, and used it to fill the gap left by the decimated spy networks, which are called HUMINT for human intelligence. We focused on the Soviet military buildup of nuclear weapons and conventional forces, but failed to see anything else. And so we were blind when it came to seeing the things that only agents on the ground can detect. So the CIA failed to see the rise of Islamic fundamentalism or the 1978 Iranian Revolution, which overthrew the Shah. In fact, U.S. intelligence report concluded at the time that, quote, the Shah was expected to remain actively in power over the next 10 years. Well, he was overthrown by a coup led by Ayatollah Khomeini just a few months after that. The CIA failed to detect rumblings in the communist bloc, which led to the split in the Warsaw Pact and ultimately the collapse of the Soviet Empire in the 1980s. They failed to see the rise of radical jihad in the 1980s or to notice when it morphed from being anti-Soviet to anti-American. And most crucially, because we didn't have human intelligence, we didn't see Al-Qaeda coming. We didn't know about their plans in the 1990s to attack the West with suicide bombers, and especially their two plots to blow up the World Trade Center. And then to make things even worse, after the September 11th attacks, our human intelligence failed once again, most notoriously in overestimating Saddam Hussein's weapons of mass destruction. And now that we've all picked apart that data of the last 8 years, we realize just how feeble our human intelligence gathering efforts were. So we've started rebuilding the CIA in the last 8 years, and we focus specifically on human intelligence. So to start investigating the CIA publicly and now, with the whole world watching, would be disastrous yet again. It would risk doing the same damage to American intelligence that we did 30 years ago. It would rip apart those spy networks and agents we have carefully begun rebuilding in the last 8 years.
What about all this high-tech surveillance equipment we have?
High-tech surveillance and satellites, well, they're great at seeing nuclear enrichment plants or tanks or large armies massing or intercontinental ballistic missiles. But, Michael, they are lousy at seeing guys in caves in Afghanistan plotting to blow up the World Trade Center and sending messages out by couriers on donkeys. The Obama administration's plans to investigate the CIA, which will no doubt be joined this fall by congressional hearings. In fact, Speaker Pelosi has already talked about investigating the CIA, which, as you'll remember, she claimed lied to her. Well, these hearings would threaten to eviscerate the CIA and the human intelligence gathering arm once again. And what that will do going forward will leave us blind, once again, to small terrorist cells plotting great destruction. Michael, we are never going to see a dirty bomb in a locker in Lower Manhattan from satellites. We're only going to know about it in advance if we've got spies on the ground that uncover the plot before it happens. So, this is not the time to put American intelligence on trial. If there are things that were wrong that were committed, investigate them privately. Deal with them privately. Punish people privately. But don't do it on the front page of the mainstream media, because it will do such enormous damage to American security for the next decade.
KT, thanks for the report. Well, Ted Kennedy has died, and immediately the entire leftist media establishment gushes forth uncritical tributes. Now, I've told you before that the left in America is actually totalitarian. There's no better proof of this than the comment that so-called historian Douglas Brinkley made about Ted Kennedy. I didn't make it. Listen to him.
The fact of having dogs with him and playing catch all the time and going to see Ted Kennedy, you always felt like you were going to see a kind of uber mensch. He was so nice to young people or people who were upwards in their careers and had questions. I'm impressed historically about his Senate office. It became, during the 1960s and 70s protest period in Washington, D.C., kind of the place, if you got tear gassed, you'd go to his office to get water and recoup.
Did you hear that? Ubermensch? Ted Kennedy was an Ubermensch? Do you know where that word comes from? It's German for overman. It was a word the Nazis used to describe the members of the pure Aryan race. And now leftist psychos use it to describe Ted Kennedy?